Hi, my name is Dave Broviak. We are in Fishers Junior High, which is in Fishers, Indiana. I teach 7th grade English. I have both advanced and regular classes. Typically I have 6 class periods a day, and so I have 2 advanced and 4 regular in junior high. So we are looking at 12 to 14-year-olds. I fell in love with the age group. The 7th graders are so full of life and happiness that there's no way I could go to high school. We're in my classroom, which is an ADHD kid's nightmare, which you can probably just tell from the little bit that's behind me would be just a small blip of what's around my room. Everything in my room, except for a handful of items, were donated by students. I told the kids, if you bring it in, I'll put it on my wall, not thinking that they would actually bring stuff in. And then once one kid brought something in, I put it on my wall, and other kids saw that I did it, and it sort of snowballed from there. And I started having to build shelves in my room, and now I have boxes in my closet because I've been teaching for 10 years, and my students have now gone on to college. I still have all of their stuff, and so I have to rotate my stock, if you will. I'm all about choice. That's one of the big things I've learned. And the more kids have a choice in their education, the more that they use the term own it, and the more they own their education, the more that they'll care about it. And so choices becomes one of the big things I try to do with them. I never give them a straight out punishment. You're bad, this is what's going to happen to them. When they're bad, I give them a choice. You can choose this or that. I'll say, you can choose to take a detention, or you can choose to do what I call a Simpson sheet, which I got from the TV show The Simpsons. When Bart has to write his name a whole bunch of times, I give him a sheet and it has the top of it as a phrase, I will be more responsible for my performance in school. And they can choose to write that phrase 50 times. And then that's their choice. They can choose a detention where they lose lunch and have to sit there and be bored and everyone points at them, or they can choose to write a Simpson sheet. Thus, they get the choice, and they're not being forced to do either one. They take ownership of them, and they actually complain considerably less. And the fact that they then get a chance to make choices becomes something that they enjoy. And so the more that they can not hate school becomes a good thing. And so the more that they get to make choices and own their behavior, the happier they become. They have choices on their homework, and the way the homework sheet will work is that some kids like to just answer questions. Like, we're going over a story, who was the main character? What choices did they make? Other kids don't like answering questions. Questions bother them. So instead, what I've set up is what I call it's an alphabet thing. It's one of those little teachery tricks I learned, and I give them a phrase, like one of the characters' name, and they do an acrostic where you have to come up with a phrase for each letter that describes the story. So instead of answering questions, you have, like, the character's name would be Joey, and then for the letter J, you have to come up with something that describes the story. Just can't learn, so he's a slow kid, and they come up with something for O. Only if he learned to do his homework, bad things don't happen. And so they go through and do, and that for more the creative kids, they enjoy doing that. Then I have another one on there that is background knowledge or confusing questions. And if they can connect the story to their life, instead of answering 10 of my questions, if they can connect the story to their own life in 10 different ways, then that counts. Because that shows that they're understanding the story, which as a teacher is what we're supposed to find, and they're doing their homework, which as a teacher we're supposed to make them responsible. Then I figure it's the same idea and it gets it across. And so I try to give them different options to do their homework. I have something I've developed over the years called behavior points. Behavior points are a way of kids gaining currency. You make good choices, you gain what are called B points, behavior points. And when you make poor choices, you lose these points. The way it works is at the beginning of the year, I give each kid 15 points, these imaginary points to use. And what you can do is use them to, say, go to your locker. It's going to take away 3 points. If you need to borrow a pen from me, then it's going to cost you 3 points. Not turning in homework will cost you points. Anytime you do something that's a poor choice, costs you points off of this total. As the total goes down lower to the 0, you start losing privileges. Like, you'll lose the right to sit in your own seat. At that point, they have a choice. They can either do the Simpson sheet, do the lines, or they can take a detention. And the way I said it is you can gain points for doing good things. Say you do, for my class with the responsibility in the notebook, if you do well on a quiz, then you don't have to do the homework that connects to it. I always have a quiz and a homework that go next to each other. If you pass your quiz and get an A, then you don't have to do the homework because you've already shown that you understand it. So I said, that's my reward. You study for a quiz, you pass the quiz, then I'm not going to make you do the homework. And so if you do the homework anyway and pass the quiz, you get extra B points because that shows that you're responsible and you're smart enough to do it, then you get the extra B points for going along with it. If you do, right now we're doing a charity. If you turn in athletic shoes for a charity that Nike shreds them to make the padding for playgrounds, and so we're doing a charity fundraiser for that. I say if you bring in a pair of athletic shoes, that'll get you some B points. And so it's tough to gain B points, but as you gain them, you get privileges. When you get to 30 B points, you get to sit on the floor during class, which for whatever reason is a huge reward for junior high kids. The big one, if they get to like 40 points, you can sit on top of your desk. 50 points, you get to choose your own seat. And so they get to choose where they sit in the classroom. And you don't spend the points. It's an automatic benefit of having those points. For if any teachers get a chance to see this, weekly emails. It's one of those things that I stole from another teacher. Every week I send out Mr. Broviak's weekly email update that has a copy of any story we do in class. I'll send them a copy of the story in case kids lose it. Oh, I send them a copy of the homework in case it disappears, the directions for anything going on, and that way the parents, the more informed they are, the less likely kids are to have excuses, and that has helped quite a bit. Facebook has been a godsend. It's still developing, to say the very least. Like right now, I have junior high kids that I have on my friends list, and it's become sort of the debate among the teacher friends and I about, do you let those kids become your friends on Facebook, or do you wait and not let them become friends until after they've graduated? Because there's things that you post that you might not want them to see. I get more emails than the kids stopping back. I would get, a couple of emails a month from random kids, and it just took me forever to try and email them back. So Facebook allows me to do it much more quickly, which makes life nice and easy. I enjoy Facebook. Biggest things I learned was one of the teachers who came back and was talking to us and said, you need to realize that kids are not going to remember what you teach them subject matter wise. They told us to sit down. He said, remember your junior year of high school. I said, okay. He says, now remember October of your junior year. And we said, okay. He goes, now remember the 12th of October. What'd you learn that day? We're like, no idea. We're like, do you remember who your teacher is? Well, yeah. And you go, well, tell us something that you brought away from that teacher. And we were able to say something like, you learned to be responsible, you learned to read a story. He says, that's what you're teaching. You're not teaching a story, you're teaching them a skill that they're going to stick with them. And he told us that's what you should end up doing. So for me, that's what I try to do with the kids. I tell them at the beginning of the year, English is just the classroom that you're in because I have to have something to do during the day, or it'd get pretty boring. What I want you to bring away from my room is I want you guys to be organized, and I want you guys to be responsible, and I want you guys to be respectful. And I say that's why we have homework. I was like, for the most part, my homework's not difficult. The way I teach, you don't have a choice but to learn. It's like, I'm not worried about you learning. That's not an option. But the responsibility, that's where homework comes in. You guys have to learn that if someone gives you something and then wants you to be able to turn it in the next day, that's a life skill you need for your job and for life. So that's where homework comes in. So that's how I use homework as more of a responsibility tool than anything else. At the end of the years, I take the last week of the school year and I use that to tell stories about my life, because at the end of the year, they've had a year's time to build up an opinion of who I am and what they think of me. So I tell them all of the choices I made in life that made me who I am. At the end of the year, I was like, if you respect what I say, then take my stories and use them in your own life. I was like, by showing them the choices I made and the skills I learned, I try to use that to help guide them. So that's what I aim for. And that seems to be a big thing that kids enjoy doing, especially because I podcast my class. I record it every day and post it on we have like a website, and the kids can download them. And that's that last week I record those stories, and those are ones that I have kids come back years later and will tell me that they have still kept those stories and listened to them and stuff like that. Hopefully what my kids get by the end of the year is the one, responsibility is a big thing I push, and the whole to be a good person, a good citizen. I think that's more important than any English I could teach them.